Okay, everybody, how y'all doing? Okay, notice something else here. Mandela effect. It's where I think a lot of you know what it is. It's where the past has changed. History has changed. All of a sudden, it's different. People are alive that were dead, and people are dead that are alive. Were alive, and names have changed. They're doing little things to change time. But check this out. I got tipped off from another video earlier, and but check this out. Interview with a vampire. Hold on a second here. It's not working. One more time. Interview with a vampire.
Interview with the Vampire is a 1994 movie directed by Neil Jordan, starring Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and Kirsten Dunst.
Okay. So it even, when I put it in there right, it came up with Interview with a Vampire and even explained about it. And in the voice even said, Interview with a Vampire is a movie that, okay, but look, Interview with the Vampire. They changed it. It's not with a, it's with the. Well, that's wrong. They changed the movie name, even the past movie name of it. There is no history of it as being a vampire. It's just the vampire. Interview with the vampire. And you can't find it anywhere. And even the movie title, if you look at it, let me see. Right here. Okay. Look what it says. The Vampire. Okay. Now let me further prove. So I was looking through my movies because I know I have Interview with a Vampire here because I've recorded every movie back in the old days, probably when CDs first came out, or DVDs. So here's all of them, and I spell them all exactly like what they say on the title. I'm very meticulous about the spelling. Okay? All this stuff. Okay? These are spelled like they were because I copy them right off the movie when I record them. So, you know, I got tons of movies. I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies. But check this out. So I knew I had Interview with a Vampire somewhere in here. They're redoing them. I swear to God. Look. Okay. What does that say? Interview with a Vampire. If you remember, it was Interview with a Vampire. See? Not the vampire. I would have put the vampire. But now, all history shows is it's Interview with the Vampire. They're changing history. They're going back in time and they're changing things with time travel, but not doing big things so you don't get too bad of effects, just to see if they can change the mindset of people. So they're changing things. Check it out. It's pretty time travel, huh? Well, there's proof. Pretty weird. Interview with the Vampire. Wrong. Wrong. Interview with a Vampire. Okay, then. They changed everything. They changed history. And how do they do that? And I've noticed all my Blu-ray movies that I have now, they're all modified too. I don't remember them the same way as what they're showing them. Really screwing with our minds. I played the movie. I wrote Interview with a Vampire, but look, Interview with the Vampire. Wrong. I wouldn't have wrote it different than what the movie says, so they're really screwing with us. What's happening is when they change history, it actually changes even the movie on the recording because it never happened that way. It happened the other way, but apparently it doesn't change the writing that you put on it personally because they didn't change that because they changed the Hollywood. You see, they changed Hollywood and they changed the movie. in the past, and then they changed it, went back in the past and changed it, and they changed the title. So even if somebody recorded it, it's going to come up that way. But they didn't change me, myself, in writing it. You see, they'd have to individualize everybody. Huh. Interesting.
Because false memory is just for a person. False memory is not for a large group of people who misremember exactly the same detail at the same time. Now, some others say, well, it can be a cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is this mental stress of discomfort that you experience as an individual when you hold certain beliefs, ideas, or values, and then you're confronted with new information that conflicts with the existing beliefs, ideas, or values, and you don't want to change that mind frame. So that is cognitive dissonance. Now, many Mandela effects are usually trivial details about an oddly specific set of categories. These include things such as the how and the when of a celebrity death, misspellings, usually replaced or removed letters, placement of geographical locations, quotations within the media, all alternative imagery. Now, I'm going to go through some well-known examples of Mandela effect. I'm going to miss quite a lot because there's so many examples out there, but I picked up the ones who relate with films because you also get the visual effect. Now, the first one, it comes from a film, The Forrest Gump, with Tom Hanks, and it's a 1994 American comedy drama film based on the 1986 novel of the same name by Winston Groom. Now, this film was directed by Robert Zemeckis and stars Tom Hanks. The story depicts several decades in the life of Forrest Gump, a slow-witted but kind-hearted, good-natured, and athletically prodigious man from Alabama, who witnesses and in some cases influences some of the defining events of the American history in the 20th century. Now, there is a scene in that film where everybody remembers it, or whoever watched this film in the past, Tom Hanks saying that my mom always said life is like a box of chocolates. But now, wherever you look anywhere online or you buy the film, you will find out that it says was like a box of chocolates. So life was like a box of chocolates. So apparently, this is not how millions of cinema goers remember the phrase. Most people remember Tom Hanks says life is like a box of chocolates. So watch with me this clip and we'll just make up our mind.
Hello. My name's Forrest Gump. Do you want a chocolate? I could eat about 1.5 million of these. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
So that's what it says today. It was like a box of chocolates. Now, this is how many millions remember this scene, but many people, including myself, remember Tom Hanks saying life is just like a box of chocolates. Now, you may say, well, you don't remember it right until you realize where there is another part in the film that his mother is saying the correct phrase. And that's the one I want to play to you.
I happen to believe you make your own destiny. You have to do the best with what God gave you.
What's my destiny, Mom?
You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Life is a box of chocolates, Forrest. You never know what you're going to get.
Mama always had a way of explaining things so I could understand them.
So you see, the discrepancy is solved already in the same film. And that creates more questions, of course. Now, one can make the case that there were probably two tapes in, and one didn't make the cut. and the one that Tom Hanks says life was like a box of chocolates was the one that was rejected. And maybe Google is messing up with our heads, having started making available only the wrong one. So keep this thought in mind, because we're going to go to another film now which makes things more complicated, and it looks like the Mandela effect becomes more realistic. So the next one is Interview with a Vampire. Now, this Interview with a Vampire is a 1994 American drama horror film directed by Neil Jordan and based on the 1976 novel Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, starring Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Now, this film was released back in November 1994 and received positive reviews, and also received 2 Oscar nominations, which is very important for the story, for Best Art Direction and Best Original Score. Now, most people remember vividly, including myself, that the film's title was Interview with a Vampire and not The Vampire. And back in those days, as I said earlier, we still used to hire videos, because that's still in the time where the videos were still out. I think the DVDs came back in 1996. And I think I hired the film a couple of times, and I vividly remember it being Interview with a Vampire. Now, so is Google messing up with our heads again? Interestingly, this film was nominated for 2 Oscars, so it happens that we have footage from this year's Oscar nominations. So watch this clip, because that makes this film interesting for the Mandela effect.
It's another blockbuster year for Hollywood, the motion picture Interview with a Vampire. The motion picture Interview with a Vampire.
Elliot Goldenthal for Interview with a Vampire.
I wanted Interview with the Vampire to be a departure. I wanted to, first of all, I always thought the vampire was the interesting one.
So just to hear what you say is not just only the film being Interview with a Vampire, but you have also external evidence from the most credible evidence that it was the case of an A. Because, of course, when you present the Oscar nominations, the first thing you're going to make sure is that you spell the whole title of the film correctly. And then you have Anne Rice, the writer of the book, who also says it's an A. So that's quite interesting, because it comes from the same time that the film was released. But now when you look online, you only find Interview with a Vampire. And that I think makes things more interesting, and the case for the Mandela effect more probable. Now, another one is the Star Wars, which later retitled as Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And that was released back in 1977, written by George Lucas, and was the first Star Wars film. And today it is often regarded as one of the best films of all time, as well as one of the most important films in the history of motion pictures. Most people remember the famous exchange between Darth Vader and Luke as, "Look, I am your father." But surprisingly, any modern video clip you will find online today is having Darth Vader saying, "No, I am your father." So here's the clip from this film.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough.
He told me you killed him. No. I am your father.
It's not true.
I think it doesn't even make sense in the script to put something like, "No, I am your father." It does make sense. Nevertheless, that's what you find online about this film today. Now, James Earl Jones, who did the voice of Darth Vader for that film, he even remembers the phrase as being, "Look, I am your father." And we even have clip evidence about him. So here's him talking about, "Look, I'm your father."
When I first saw the dialogue that said, Luke, I am your father. I said to myself, he's lying. I wonder how they're going to play that liar. Redneck Jedi says, Luke, I am your father and your uncle.
So the very person who did the voiceover, he's telling you now that he actually said, look, I am your father. Everything today you find is, look, no, I am your father, which doesn't make sense even in the script. Now, the last example is the one from Snow White, a classic Disney movie which dates all the way back in 1937, which is almost, I think it's about 60 years ago, 80 years ago. Sorry. Right, Snow White, the classic Disney film. Everyone remembers the evil queen standing in front of the mirror saying, mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? That's a classic, everybody remembers that. Mirror, mirror is what most people remember the queen saying back in this 1937 Disney movie, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. One would think that that memorable movie produced reliable, consistent memories, including the famous mirror, mirror line. However, any modern audio or visual references are having the queen in the movie actually saying magic mirror on the wall. And here is the clip.
Oh no, my queen.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
Famed is thy beauty, Majesty. But hold, a lovely maid I see. Rags cannot hide her gentle grace. Alas, she is more fair than thee.
So that's magic mirror on the wall. Nobody remembers it this way. It's mirror, mirror on the wall. This phrase is etched in people's minds to such a degree for the past 80 years as mirror, mirror, that even modern adaptations of this film, of this fairy tale in film, are using the same phrase. Now, most recent example is the film Mirror, Mirror from 2012, starring Julia Roberts. What is Julia Roberts saying in this modern adaptation? Well, if the title of the film doesn't give it away.
Once upon a time, in an enchanted kingdom, there was a beautiful princess with skin as white as snow and hair as black as night.
La la la.
Her hair is not black, it's raven, and she's 18 years old, and her skin has never seen the sun, so of course it's good.
This spring,
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Snow White.
what? Snow White. A classic tale.
So it was mirror, mirror on the wall, but today it's magic mirror on the wall. Now, these are just some of the examples. There are so many other examples, and in relation with this Mandela effect, which, of course, you can make the case that it does exist. So I'm just going to then follow it up with a couple of explanations of what could possibly be. Why do we see this change? These changes in our reality in relation to names, in relation to films, in relation to even geographical locations in the planet. The first one is that it relates with time travel and CERN, which is this major scientific experiment in Switzerland. Now, the seemingly minor changes or differences related to the Mandela effect are odd, to say the least. So if realities were randomly merging, I think we would expect to see far greater differences and with far more reaching consequences. It makes me think of a scientific test. Let's go back and change this one minor thing and see A, how it affects the current timeline, and B, how people react to these changes. And they are testing how past timeline changes affect the current universe. But to what end? Perhaps some major change in the future to see if it is possible and what effects it will have on the general population. Now, the only major nefarious scientific project, as I mentioned, that can be responsible for tests of this kind is CERN. It is the largest scientific project of all times, with participating nations which in real life they're enemies. And I think that's what makes it nefarious. Why do enemy states come together to contribute towards this project? And also, they have, in several instances, the scientists in that experiment saying that they're trying to reach out different dimensions. So, what makes it even more interesting now, CERN posted this video in early 2014, which Mandela Effect was not yet popular, and it's called Happy at CERN. So everybody is singing, all the scientists are singing, dancing around to the tune of Happy. And what's halfway through this video, a scientist is holding two signs. The one reads Mandela and the other one Bond 1.
Know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Hey, go, bring me down. Ain't nothing bring me down. The love is too high. They bring me down. Can't nothing bring me down. I said.
So this is not a video from a YouTuber. This is official. If you go on CERN's website, or I'm not quite sure, their media website, you will find this clip, and he clearly holds a sign with the name Mandela. Could it be a coincidence, or are they laughing at us? They're making a joke, or they're probably responsible for this effect. Now, one thing I would like to touch is this butterfly effect. The butterfly effect is the concept that small causes can have large effects. If a butterfly flaps its wings on one side of the earth, it is said to cause a hurricane on the other. It is a well-known simplistic example of the theory. Initially, it was used for weather prediction, but later the term became a metaphor used in and out of science. So we can only speculate at this point, but from the way that Mandela effects have manifested themselves, we can conclude that they started small, as with the Bernstein bears, and moved on to larger and larger things, like films. So it would seem that someone is testing the butterfly effect. They choose well-known facts and events that have minor effects on the future, a line in a movie, a book title, a restaurant name, this that people will remember, yet will have no major effects on the timeline universe for the rest of us. They are testing how these changes affect our memories. Notice how many of the things that are changed are years and years old. They are not changing lines from Harry Potter, which is very recent, because they can't test what effect will have on the population. They are changing details in 30-plus-year-old media, long enough to justify people misremembering, but short enough that people are still alive to remember.